Welcome on my first step ever. It's exciting to have some really amazing people that I get to invite on my first step ever. And this time, someone really young. And I'm excited to share his journey with you all and as well uncover his journey myself. I had the opportunity to meet this amazing guy in Melbourne and to share a stage and to listen to his journey, that what he has made out of his life so far and what are his aspirations going forward. And the reason that we have these youngsters towards the 100 episode of my first step ever is to share story of people who have made it at any age that they wanted, because I think success of how you define and what you want in life does not depend on your age or the kind of money that you're earning. So with that in mind, I like to introduce you to Kasun Kalhara, all the way from Brisbane, Australia. Welcome on my first step ever.
Thanks, Shani, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Especially you've been doing amazing work, so I'm glad to be.
Thank you so much, Kasun. Such a great opportunity to share a stage with you, and that you're doing so much in the space of youth, student leadership, and even student employment all around in Australia, for everyone, for international students, and even for students, university students. And you do much more than that. And that's why I'm super excited to uncover your story over here, that how did you get into the space? Why did you get into the space? And what really motivates you? So Kasun is an educator, entrepreneur, advocate, social worker, and motivational speaker. And he's a really good speaker, let me tell you. His career extends to industrial research, academic, executive, managerial, business, and diplomatic disciplines. Wow. I did not know a lot of them myself, so it's good to know. And he works in various positions in different local, national, international organizations, and he's executive director of Life in Genius Australia. Wow. Now, there's much more to his introduction, but I think it would be really, really interesting for him to let us know his story from him. So, Kasun, let me just make a start and ask you this question: that where did you spend your childhood, and what kind of people and mindset you were surrounded with?
So I spent my childhood in a small family, and it's just my mom and my brother mostly. My upbringing was mostly supported by my mom, and I was looking up to her, and she was playing multiple roles, and she was a strong woman. I got the courage to sort of like accept challenges in my life, thanks to her. Looking at like what she was doing and looking up to her work and how she managed like the community and also the family. So I think that was mostly my inspiration. But also, having said that, I had some relatives around me who constantly supported my mom and my brother and myself. So I think we were a small family unit. In that family unit, we had a lot of like strengths and bond. I still speak to my mom every day, which is something that I don't want to forget. But yeah, so that was my upbringing. But also me becoming a person today, I think my high school played a very big role. I was disciplined. I was brought up as a good student, if you want to say such that. And yeah, I was supported academically, and mostly I was given a lot of opportunities to explore myself aside from the academia. Especially like extracurricular activities, and that's where I sort of picked up the sort of interest in terms of like advocacy and like student leadership, all sort of avenues when I was at school.
That's terrific. It's great to know that you have all praises and all positive things to speak about your childhood, the way that you were brought up, and the people that surrounded you, that you are grateful to them, and the kind of mindset that you developed while seeing your mother in action. That is what led you to believe in the kind of action she does, that it has a positive impact. And you know, when someone says that you must lead by example, I think that's exactly what your mother did. She led you by example, and that's why you could say that whatever you have in you today is something derive that source of inspiration from your mother. As you mentioned that while you were in university, your high school days, that's when you developed the interest in academics, and now you help students on their journey in Australia with employment, with leadership, with empowering them. So let's just trace back to those years or that moment when you started empowering yourself. Do you remember what was the time and how did you empower yourself to begin with?
As everyone else's life would be, my life was also like up and downs. I had a pretty constant sort of phase when I was a kid, high school, pretty good, like mom's there supporting. But then towards the end of my high school, I sort of started, experiencing some challenges. So 10 years ago, I had to face floods. So that was like a natural disaster. And it was sort of like, up until that point, I didn't realize how it could get worse, and how challenges probably get thrown at your way and disturb your pace. So it really disturbed me, and I was never prepared for that, and I was kind of lost. And that's where sort of I was like all over the place trying to sort of you know collect myself back and continue, but it didn't work. And it took years and years for me to sort of recover, because 10 years ago I pretty much lost like most of my academic work achievements and all sort of like other like physical properties and everything. So it probably took me back to square one and sort of made me to think twice. Okay, where am I heading? What do I need to do? And I've found that inspiration again by just listening to some motivational speeches and hearing about like different people overcoming the challenges that were thrown at their way because of natural disasters. I've heard about stories of some people who lost their parents because of natural disasters, but still managed to overcome those hard periods. So I found my passion and my sort of self-empowerment during that period. And of course, there were people to support me, not just like, motivating me, but also like actually supporting me. Because for a while I was on limbo. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't like experience a lot of like difficulty before then, so I was never prepared. Like similar to COVID-19, we never had the experience, and I never had the experience back then. So that's where I sort of like started thinking about where do I want to go. I mean, how do I how do I challenge these situations in the future if I ever have to encounter such scenario? It could be a natural disaster or it could be something else. And yeah, so following that, I had few major breakdowns in my life, which didn't sort of pull me back as the first breakdown, because I had the experience, I had some sort of strength that I developed when I was encountering that experience and the very first time. And then I went through a breakup after a couple of years later, and then when I was at uni in my final year, my dad passed away. So those were my like major sort of breakdowns. I sort of use those to sort of motivate myself and find a purpose in life. I think that's where I got that inspiration from.
I'm so sorry to hear the kind of challenges that you had to go through so far, because I think each one of them is equally difficult to manage and to go through. And I think unless you're in that situation, you can definitely not understand the pain and the mental stress and the pressure that is built. And it's very difficult to come out of that phase. And you have faced that multiple times while you were growing up. But on the positive side, what I can say is that probably that's why you have emotional maturity. When I speak to you, when someone listens to you, when whatever your thoughts are, they come from that sort of security and maturity, that what is important in life. Probably you understand that best at this point in time. So first of all, Kasun, thank you so much for sharing those moments, because I know it's very personal and it's definitely very close to your heart, and it's very challenging phase that you must have gone through. But while we are discussing this on this platform today, and there are a lot of youngsters who are listening to us today, some might have faced, let's say, heartbreak, or some might have faced pain of not getting into the career that they wanted so far. So for those people, if you would like to, at this moment, tell them probably top 3 things, that what is the most important thing that they should, refocus themselves on during that time, that can help them take one step further.
And when you say, reframe, I think all the failures, you need to deem them as learning opportunities, because whenever you fail, it's not necessarily a failure. Because I think we need to sort of redefine the word and probably replace the word failure. It's all about learning. And when you make a mistake or you fall short of a goal, you have not failed. You have achieved something. It's just like you haven't been able to conquer that. So let's say you don't have the perfect job that you wanted to practice. The opportunities that you've been given, consider them as a ladder, because all these are leading up to your end goal. So no one in this world has achieved these goals in one go. So it's all about multiple goals, and we've seen this. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us have heard about a lot of stories of failures, but I think one thing that I would like to focus on is the brain plasticity. And I tend to talk about this quite a bit, because we sort of think that, okay, we need this job, okay, we are going to apply and continue applying until we get that job. But our brain is not fixed, and our mind shouldn't be either, because we experience different challenges throughout, the process of securing employment. But during that process, you are learning a lot, and your mind is, if your mind is fixed, then you are not exploring the other avenues. The classic example is yourself. So you explored another avenue and you open up these opportunities for yourself. I think a lot of students, a lot of young people are struggling with finding a job just because they don't think there is an opportunity for them to create jobs, or to open another sort of arena for them to be employed. I think if your brain is not fixed, if you can think in a wider spectrum, I think there is a lot of opportunities for most of the young people, because employment is now, we are living in a completely different world, and modern world. The employment is not working for someone. It's not just like starting your own organization. It's beyond that. So there's a lot of concepts that are coming along the way. So I think I would like to encourage students, or graduates, or young people who are chasing their careers, or their dream careers. I think you need to probably take a break, pause for a second, and refresh your mind and see how the world is going to be. I think being futuristic is important, because you need to think about how you can set yourself 20 years ahead, or 30 years ahead, because that's where you're looking at if you are a young person coming out to the industry or to the community.
Thank you, Kasun, for taking us through the different ways that one can really refocus in these moments and take a step further, get out of that zone that we have, really pulled ourselves into. And it's easier said than done, but then one has to take conscious decisions, because if you want to make your life better, if you need to move on, you need to take some actions. So Kasun, from here I like to hear from you. As you mentioned that you face several challenges in your early days. With that in mind, and now that you are into academic and you are an advocate, you also help students build their career, but more than that, you help them empower. And it's very different from a regular day-to-day job. And the reason that we have you over here and we are chatting with you is to tell the listeners, the youth out there, that there are various ways in which they can pursue their passion. They not necessarily really have to have a job. They not necessarily have to be an entrepreneur, but they can also work towards the passion, the cause that they want to, and empower others in many different ways. So I'm really privileged that you're here so that you can take us through your journey. Although you are a mix of everything over here, you have, amassed the experience from the different categories and everything. And I think that's why we would love to hear from you, that when did you decide to get into this advocacy, and how do you see it helping the people that you're actually impacting their lives?
Since I was a kid, I always wanted to sort of advocate people, and probably my passion has been always around like helping people, especially the people who are disadvantaged. They lack a lot of opportunities and they lack what we have. One eye-opening occasion was when I was in Cambodia on a humanitarian campaign. I saw how people, experience difficulties in terms of their day-to-day life, and I realized how we take our lives for granted sometimes. We always complain, like at least I used to complain a lot about like what I don't have, or what I like, if I have any weaknesses or any sort of drawbacks. I think I have always been focusing on those and sort of be a self-critique. Yeah, so occasion, that situation was an eye-opening opportunity for me to sort of reflect back on my life and how those people were sort of living happily with what they have, whereas in the Western world or in the modern or much more developed countries, we sort of try to chase down the so-called goals, careers, or whatever you want to call it. But I think success is very different, and we all have different definitions of success. And today we may have a definition, and we may have a goal, we may have a plan to achieve that goal, and one day, in a couple of days later, we may achieve that goal, and then our success, a definition of our success, is going to be is going to be different. So it keeps changing. So it's a variable. I think as we achieve different milestones, different successful milestones, we keep changing the definition of success, and there's no end to this. For me, I think I started acknowledging and embracing my imperfections and started looking at all these challenges coming in my way as opportunities to develop myself. When I have all these challenges coming my way, I try to sort of face them in a different way, take a unique approach, and I try different tactics, like learning different techniques to address, sort of like socializing myself in a different spectrum. So we sort of try a unique approach, and as I said, like the steps that I've taken may work for me, but not for someone else. If you are in the same identical situation, so we all are different. I think you got to find what best works for you and what's best for you in terms of addressing these challenges and developing yourself. Every step, I think, it's an opportunity to develop yourself. Also, one last thing about like the life and how you want to sort of focus and stay goal oriented in your life. I think the main point is to cultivate a sense of purpose. If you have a sense of purpose, doesn't matter what you do, you will stay focused, you will stay goal oriented, and you know where you're heading. You may not know exactly what destination you're going to end up, but you know at least the direction that you should go. So if you have a sense of purpose, I think you know the bigger picture in your mind, and that is definitely helpful to have a growth mindset if you want to achieve success in your own words.
That's incredible. I think you have put in a lot of great tips out there already, and that was definitely my next question, but we have a very wholesome answer over here from what really inspired you to do what you do right now. What is your sense of purpose? And you have very rightly touched upon the fact that our goals can keep changing. It's a variable, but your ultimate purpose that's driving your multiple goals towards that particular direction is something that will always be your guiding light. And how to measure success, what is your success, what is the meaning that you give to your success, depends on every individual. And thank you so much, Kasun, for taking us through your journey, making us understand that what really shaped you in your life and how you think and what's your mindset really like, how you design your life. And before we take your leave today, I like to ask you another question, which is more around that. Why don't you share with our listeners that what are your top 3 projects that you have been working on that has really helped and impacted students and people around the world especially in Australia, because I know they have done really, really well and impacted a lot of people. So if you would like to share any top three of them and the organizations that you've worked with.
Yes, absolutely. So the first one that comes to my mind, Life Engine Australia project, which is mostly focusing on the colored communities and disadvantaged people. That include migrant people, different multicultural like colored people, and also indigenous communities. So we are sort of working on developing their life profiles. That also includes, career, academic profile if you're students, and also not just those, but also self-development and professional development. It doesn't have to be, career related, but as a person, how you can develop yourself. And as you mentioned, Ishani, I think it's the measurement. There is no like a fixed measurement to measure your success. Okay, I achieve this amount of money. I became a millionaire. Is that a success? Well, for some people it may be the success, but some people it may not be the success. At the end of the day, if you are satisfied, if you're happy about your efforts and the actions that you've taken, and if you're proud of yourself, then don't forget to reward yourself, because it's important that you reward your actions, but not your talents or whatever you bring from your birth. Another project that we are working on is the employability project. As you know, I am a very big advocate for employability. A lot of students and also young people leaving college, leaving high school, leaving university, they often get sort of lost in the process of securing job opportunities and securing employment. So rather than sort of taking them in a traditional journey, I'm also working alongside Student Australia to support students to sort of see through the bigger picture. Now, redefine the employability. Like, we are now moving into a different world, and we need to sort of get ourselves out there and explore other avenues. Another project that I'm working on is with Melbourne Learning Studio, where we sort of think about how we can get high school students eager to learn new things and set themselves up for not for a competition, but also for your self-development and cycle or self-development phase. Because as soon as they leave the schools, they are focusing on university or their career, but we need to get them to see the futuristic opportunities and trying to sort of develop their futuristic mindset, especially starting from young age. Those are some of the projects that I'm currently working on.
I am really excited to know the variety of work that you have done, and all stem from, this, your purpose of just helping the disadvantaged, or helping those people who need, I mean, they still are out there. They can still make a living for themselves, and they can still, look out for opportunity themselves, but you're still willing, giving them a platform to make it easier for them. And this is a really great thing that someone can do, is to help impact, elevate other people in their life along with them. So thank you so much, Kasun. And before we take you leave, I always request my guest speakers to leave our listeners with a thought or a saying that you really resonate with.
Yeah, so my favorite quote is altruism is always the first, while egoism comes the last.
Thank you so much, Kasun. It's been really lovely to know you, know your journey. You've come a long way, and I'm so excited to understand that how you have, faced challenges in your life, and that whatever you do in your life, that comes out of your passion, and passion to help others and help them, give that particular platform that a lot of us, we don't receive. So thank you. You're doing a really, really noble work out there, and more power to you. And to all my listeners, thank you so much for being with us. And if you have loved what Kasun has shared with us, and if you like to know more about him and his work, you can always follow him on his LinkedIn. So thank you so much, and I will see you with another episode very soon.